you awaken to a world that holds a quiet question. Who is witnessing this moment? Allow attention to soften and notice the space between breath and thought where presence quietly rests. Your day will unfold differently when this subtle observer is invited forward before habit takes the helm. Let curiosity lead as the first act of the morning, like opening a window to fresh air within. The practice offered here is simple yet profound, designed to activate your non-reactive awareness. As attention settles, feel the gentle aliveness that is already present beneath surface noise. This is the moment to choose clarity over reactivity and to step into guided, conscious response. You are invited to notice how habitual reactions steer the tone of your day and how the witness can shift that steering. When you cultivate observation, choices emerge from spaciousness instead of automatic impulse. This practice trains a habitual, non-reactive awareness that grants sovereignty over emotional triggers and pattern thinking. Consider the witness as both a lens and a shelter, offering clarity and refuge in the same breath. By practicing in the morning, you prime neural pathways to favor presence and deliberate action. The transformation is cumulative, felt in small shifts that ripple outward into relationships and decisions. Allow this intention to settle into your bones as a steady guide for the hour ahead. You are not asked to change who you are, only to notice with kindness what already occurs within your awareness. This witnessing is a training ground for gracious choice, where reactivity relaxes and discernment grows like a patient tree. Each morning session becomes a deposit in the bank of inner freedom, accessible when storms of feeling or thought rise. The promise of practice is not perfection, but increased ease and alignment with your values. Small moments of observation compound into the capacity to respond from conscious intention rather than conditioned habit. Embrace the practice as a ritual that honors your growth and your limits equally. Let this morning be a bridge between inner truth and outward life. You are invited to prepare a small, sacred beginning for your day that signals to the mind that presence is chosen. The space need not be large or ornate. A cleared corner, a cushion, or a soft light will do, as symbols influence the nervous system. Settle into that space with intention, allowing the environment to support the quieting of habitual urgency. Even a few deliberate breaths here acts like a key turning in the lock of distracted momentum. Remember that ritual is a language the body understands, and it helps translate intention into embodied reality. Let this beginning be an unspoken agreement between you and your day. Presence will be honored. From this center, the rest of the practice proceeds with clarity and grace. You are encouraged to choose a gentle, specific intention to guide the practice. For example, to respond from choice or to notice without judgment. This intention acts as a lighthouse for attention, offering direction without force. State it silently and allow it to resonate through your chest like a tuning note. Let the intention be friendly, realistic, and easy to carry throughout daily moments. If the mind wanders, the intention provides a soft anchor to return to, reminding you of the purpose without shaming. Trust that clarity grows through repetition and allow the intention to be a quiet companion rather than a strict command. With this gently set aim, move now toward the breath, where witnessing often first finds a foothold. You are making a small commitment each morning to notice what arises before reacting, a practice that rewires automatic pathways over time. This commitment need not be grand. Its power comes from consistency and kindness toward yourself. Imagine each moment of non-reactivity as a seed planted in fertile ground, eventually growing into a resilient garden of clarity. Allow patience to be a central quality of this work, knowing that awareness deepens in its own rhythm. Revisit your small sacred beginning and intention whenever you feel unsteady, like returning to a home base. Carry this promise gently as the day opens, and let curiosity guide you through the next steps. The journey is gradual, luminous, and entirely available to you now. You begin by tending the outer environment, because the outer is a mirror to the inner field and influences attention naturally. Allow small adjustments. Dim a light, draw a curtain, or place a simple object of quiet meaning to create a supportive setting. These gestures signal to the nervous system that the day's pace can soften and that the inner witness is invited. Think of this as tuning an instrument before a performance. The sound of your presence becomes clearer when the surroundings are in harmony. Notice how subtle these changes feel, yet how much they affect ease and focus. Let the gentle reconfiguration of space be an act of self-respect rather than perfectionism. With the environment aligned, your inner attention can be more readily directed inward. You are asked to consider posture as a subtle signal that asks the body to be present and open rather than shut down or defensive. Sit or stand with a spine that feels dignified yet relaxed, a posture that invites breath to move freely. Allow the head to align over the heart and the shoulders to soften, creating an internal architecture that supports observation. Posture is not rigid formality, but a flexible container that makes sustained attention easier. If lying down, keep the face unclenched and the breath accessible to the belly, not strangled by tension. Recognize that a small bodily shift can change the quality of the mind's watching. Let this posture be a practical ally for the witnessing that follows. You are encouraged to find comfort that supports alertness rather than lulling attention into avoidance or sleep. Cushion the seat, warm the body, and make space cozy while keeping the senses awake and receptive. If the body asks for release, honor it with gentle movements, but avoid sinking into distraction. Comfort is a form of kindness that stabilizes attention and reduces resistance to inner noticing. The aim is to create an ease that supports rather than distracts from awareness. Notice where comfort meets vigilance and fine-tune until both are balanced. This refined comfort becomes the platform from which the witness naturally rises. You benefit from simple boundaries that protect this time as a priority, like a soft fence around an inner garden. Choose a duration, 5, 10, or 20 minutes, that feels realistic and sustainable for your morning rhythm. Communicate gently with others or set a small visible sign if needed, honoring the practice without creating drama. These boundaries help train attention by providing predictable containers for presence, reducing friction with daily tasks. They also send a message to your deeper nervous system that attention is valued and will be tended. Remember that boundaries can be flexible and compassionate, evolving as your life changes. With these frames in place, the practice becomes a reliable refuge rather than an occasional novelty. You can choose a brief ritual to seal the beginning of practice, such as ringing a small bell, lighting a single candle, or taking 3 intentional breaths. These tiny ceremonies act as neural anchors that mark a transition from doing toward being. The mind registers the subtle symbol and aligns more readily with the chosen intention. Keep the ritual minimal and meaningful, a quiet punctuation in the flow of your morning. Over time, the ritual itself will carry comforting familiarity, signaling readiness to the witness within. Use this cue to invite the breath to become the first companion of attention. You are encouraged to keep the beginning of practice simple so that the path to presence remains inviting rather than burdensome. A compact, repeatable sequence supports habit formation and honors limited morning energy. Simplicity also lowers resistance and honors the reality of busy modern lives, making the witness a practical tool rather than an abstract ideal. Start small and let the depth develop naturally through regular repetition rather than intensity. Trust that even brief moments of non-reactive awareness accumulate into meaningful change. With simplicity embraced, move toward breath and embodied attention with calm curiosity. You are invited to make the breath your primary anchor because it is always present and returns naturally to the body. Allow a few full breaths to arrive without forcing, noticing the sensation of air entering and leaving the chest and belly. Let attention rest on the continuity of in-breath and out-breath, like a quiet river that steadies the mind's surface. When thoughts arise, notice them and return to breath with the gentleness of a friend guiding a wandering child. The breath is impartial and steady. It does not judge or demand. Use it to cultivate a spacious, stable platform for witnessing the mind and heart. As the breath settles, the observer becomes clearer and more accessible. You are encouraged to tune into the natural rhythm of your breathing rather than imposing a particular pattern unless it supports calmness. Observe whether the breath is shallow, deep, fast, or slow, with curiosity instead of judgment. Notice how the tempo of breath reflects the tone of the mind and body in this moment, offering honest information without critique. Allow small lengthening of the exhale if tension is present, letting each outward wave release weighted thoughts. If the breath feels scattered, return again and again with nonchalance, like resting on a familiar shore. The natural breath is the foundation from which conscious witnessing arises. Through gentle attunement to rhythm, your inner field begins to stabilize. You may choose a subtle counting method to help focus attention, such as inhaling for 4 counts and exhaling for 5, but only if it feels supportive. Use counting as a temporary scaffold rather than a rule, allowing it to fade as natural presence strengthens. Notice how each counted breath brings the mind briefly into a shared time space with your body, aligning intention and sensation. If counting becomes mechanical, release it and return to simple observation of breath quality. The calibration is there to refine awareness, not to control or manufacture states. Experiment with these gentle tools and choose what enhances wakeful witnessing. Let the breath remain a living bridge connecting inner clarity with outer action. You are now cultivating the meeting point where breath and attention become allies, each amplifying the other's clarity. Notice how placing attention on the breath reveals subtle layers of feeling and thought that previously felt like background noise. Allow attention to be spacious, like a sky that contains clouds without identifying with them. The breath helps the witness maintain gentle openness when distractions arise, offering an effortless return path. Use this meeting to notice the difference between observing and being absorbed by inner events. The quality of observing can shift from strained effort to ease when breath and attention are aligned. Carry this alliance into the next phase where the body becomes the map of presence. You are invited to notice the micro pauses that occur naturally between breaths, small gaps of silence where pure awareness rests briefly. These moments are fertile ground for the witness, offering a direct experience of spaciousness that precedes thought. Practice resting attention lightly in these pauses, learning to recognize stillness as an ever-present resource. When pressure or urgency surfaces, search for even the faintest pause and use it to reset the tone of attention. Over time, these micro-pauses expand, creating a growing reservoir of non-reactive clarity throughout the day. Embrace their subtlety as a powerful ally for gentle transformation. Allow the micro-pauses to guide the transition into sensing the body more deeply. You now consider the breath as a faithful companion that returns your attention to present moment again and again without judgment. Invite the breath to be patient with the wandering mind, offering a soft, steady presence that never scolds. Use its rhythm to sustain the witness through moments of distraction, remembering that returning is the practice itself. The breath does not change your life overnight, but it offers a timeless doorway to subtle transformation when attended to consistently. Let gratitude for this simple instrument deepen the relationship between attention and awareness. From here, allow the body to speak its sensations as the next layer of exploration unfolds. You begin the body scan by bringing attention gently into the physical vessel, as if running a hand along an inner map to notice what is present. Start at the top of the head and slowly invite awareness to descend through the face, neck, and shoulders, taking time to feel each area without rush. Allow curiosity to guide the exploration, noticing textures of tension, relaxation, warmth, or coolness. If judgment arises, label it briefly and return to exploration with renewed kindness. The body is a truthful informant. It communicates in sensation rather than stories. Treat its signals as data for compassionate response rather than evidence of failure. This patient inspection opens a deeper field for non-reactive witnessing to inhabit. You are asked to notice physical sensations as they appear: tingle, ache, heat, coolness, without constructing narratives around them. Rather than analyzing why a sensation exists, simply note its presence, quality, and location with an impartial curiosity. This neutral noticing weakens the habit of story-making that often fuels reactivity. Observe how some sensations shift as attention rests on them, sometimes dissolving, sometimes clarifying, always teaching. Allow breathing to accompany this exploration, letting the exhale soften areas of tightness or holding. Recognize that sensations are transient visitors in the field of awareness. This practice trains the faculty of observation to abide with direct experience instead of reactive interpretation. You cultivate a posture of non-judgmental curiosity toward every sensation encountered during the scan, treating each discovery as neutral information. If criticism or fear surfaces, notice it as another object of awareness and return to bodily feeling with gentle interest. This tender approach prevents reactivity from accelerating into self-blame and creates space for honest presence. Consider how curiosity softens the field and invites natural regulation of the nervous system. The body appreciates being observed kindly rather than interrogated harshly. As attention learns to hold without verdict, emotional patterns begin to unravel gracefully. Continue the scan with this compassionate mindset as a steady companion. You may encounter areas of discomfort or ache that feel familiar and a bit resistant to attention. Allow the gaze to linger there with patient steadiness. Notice whether tensions shift when attention rests without pushing or fixing, like watching a knot loosen inside a warm bath. Resist the urge to immediately change or escape the sensation, and instead track its subtleties, edges, density, temperature, without urgency. Often, mere presence invites a softening that is therapeutic in itself, even when it does not fully resolve. Respect any limits, and give the body permission to reveal what it needs in its own time. This steady witnessing models the non-reactive stance that will be applied to thoughts and emotions. Allow the scan to continue down through ribs, belly, hips, and legs with calm curiosity. You can include a gentle awareness of the body's energetic centers, noticing warmth or openness around the chest, gut, and crown without imposing rigid ideas about them. Sense the heartbeat and the subtle pulsing that anchors life, using it as another anchor for the witness. Allow any sensations in these centers to be simply observed, acknowledging their role in feeling and intuition. If imagining light helps, invite a soft glow that doesn't distract from raw sensation but supports ease. Energy awareness complements physical noticing and strengthens the ability to hold subtle states without reactivity. Let the scan conclude by widening attention to the whole body as a single field of living awareness.
You finish the scan by taking a few breaths and sensing the whole body as a singular, integrated presence, noticing how each part contributes to felt wholeness. Observe any shifts in openness or tension that occurred during the exploration, celebrating small increments of release and acceptance. Recognize the witness within has become more embodied and responsive through this practice. Allow the senses to rest in spaciousness and prepare to move attention outward without losing this grounded clarity. This completion feels like a soft closing of a door that leaves the house of awareness calm and ready for the day. Carry this embodied witnessing forward into the next practice of observing thoughts with the same graciousness.
You are invited to watch thoughts not as facts, but as events that arise, move, and pass through your awareness like clouds in a spacious sky. Notice the content, tone, and speed of thought without following their narrative line or adding fuel. This observational stance loosens the automatic belief that thinking equals truth and creates room for intelligent response. Each time a thought is observed without reaction, it weakens the grip of habitual patterns and strengthens your capacity to choose. Use the breath and embodied presence as anchors to keep the witness steady amid mental activity. Recognize that thought is a tool when used consciously, and a distraction when it runs unchecked. Allow the mind's movement to be seen with gentle clarity. You can name recurring patterns briefly: worries, planning, judging, as an act of clarification that helps prevent identification with them. Naming is not labeling to shame, but clarifying to free awareness from entanglement. When a pattern is recognized, observe how the body responds and where tension collects, using that feedback as a navigation tool. Over time, simple naming trains the mind to notice habitual grooves before they direct action. The witness becomes adept at catching patterns early and choosing differently in response. Use this technique lightly, avoiding over-intellectualization that pulls attention away from felt sensation. Continue practicing naming with compassion and a spirit of experimentation. You are helped to distinguish between cognitive thought and deeper intuitive knowing, respecting both while not elevating thought above embodied wisdom. Notice thoughts that feel insistent versus those that arise with gentle curiosity, and use the witness to test their origin. Sometimes the mind offers pragmatic problem solving. At other times, it recycles story for safety. The witness learns to let each function have its place without confusing one for the other. Allow a subtle inner questioning. Is this thought useful now? To guide responses rather than automatic assent. This discernment becomes a cornerstone of conscious choice and graceful action. Rest in the clarity that both thinking and knowing are available when attention is awake. You practice allowing thoughts to pass through awareness by softening identification and watching their edges dissolve with time and attention. Imagine each thought as a wave that comes to shore and then recedes, leaving the sand intact underneath. Resist the urge to chase or analyze every passing idea. The witness's role is to observe and permit movement. If fixation arises, bring attention back to breath or body kindly, like returning to a safe home base. Regularly practicing non-attachment to thought reduces mental reactivity and builds a stable inner platform. Notice how space around thoughts widens, revealing the stillness that always was present. Carry this ease into the next chapter where feelings will be met with the same impartiality. You may sometimes encounter rumination, cycles of repetitive thinking that feel sticky and hard to release. Meet these with gentle strategies rather than force. Acknowledge the rumination as a signal that needs attention, then intentionally move attention to sensation or breath to interrupt the loop. Use curiosity to investigate the urge behind repetitive thinking. What unmet need or worry is surfacing? Offer a pragmatic step if action is required, then return to witnessing rather than getting pulled back into thinking. Over time, this practice disempowers loops by refusing to feed them with reactive energy. Remember that compassion for your thinking patterns is essential as change gradually occurs. With patience, rumination loses its authority and becomes a smaller part of your inner landscape. You cultivate mental clarity by regularly returning to witnessing, letting attention sharpen without constriction, and widening the field of awareness. Practicing in the morning primes the mind to operate from choice rather than conditioned impulse throughout the day. Notice how even brief, consistent attention improves the capacity to think with precision and compassion. Allow clarity to emerge naturally as distractions lose their urgency and purpose becomes more evident. This clarity supports inspired action and clearer communication with others. Hold the witness as an ongoing ally for healthy mental life and kind engagement. With the mind observed, your choices become more aligned with what truly matters. You are taught to notice emotions as they appear without being absorbed by their intensity, recognizing feelings as temporary states rather than permanent identities. Place attention on the felt tone in the body and notice its color, texture, and movement with impartial curiosity. If an emotion feels strong, allow space around it by widening the field of awareness, giving it room to move rather than pushing it away. This spacious witnessing naturally reduces the compulsion to react immediately. Remember that emotional waves will crest and subside when allowed to flow with attention present. Compassionately naming what arises, anger, sadness, pleasantness, can help unclench habitual reactivity. Let this non-absorptive stance become a reliable support for emotional clarity. You explore how emotions manifest physically, showing up as tightness, warmth, heaviness, or lightness in particular regions of the body. By mapping emotion through sensation, reactive storylines lose urgency and become more manageable information. Invite attention to trace where emotional energy concentrates and observe how breath alters its intensity. Sometimes an emotion softens when the witness stays kind and steady, permitting release to occur naturally. Recognizing this somatic language builds trust between heart and awareness, allowing wiser choices to emerge. If an emotion is overwhelming, slow the breath and remind yourself that the majority of the experience is transient. Use this bodily map to inform gentle, discerning responses rather than impulsive reactions. You make room for emotional complexity, noticing how multiple feelings can co-arise, gratitude and grief, anxiety and excitement, without forcing them into simple labels. Let the witness accommodate paradox and nuance, giving permission for contradictory states to exist simultaneously. This inclusivity reduces the need to defend or avoid parts of experience that felt unacceptable before. Recognize that holding complexity is a sign of maturation and inner freedom rather than confusion. When mixed emotions surface, allow each its moment without judgment, watching how they shift in relation to each other. The witness becomes a spacious container big enough for your inner weather, Carry this acceptance forward into interactions and decisions with greater compassion. You practice choosing a response grounded in clarity rather than reacting impulsively from emotion alone, using the space cultivated by witnessing. Pause intentionally when intensity arises. Breathe into the sensation and ask what would be most skillful in the moment. Sometimes the wisest action is stillness. Other times it is a small, deliberate step aligned with values. Use the witness to create this pause, allowing deliberation to enter before action. Over time, these micro-pauses become an embodied habit that protects integrity and relationships. Notice the difference between decisions made from calm discernment and those made from heated reactivity. Let the witness be the bridge between feeling and constructive action. You cultivate a compassionate tone toward emotional states, gently acknowledging pain or discomfort without amplifying shame or resistance. Speak kindly to yourself inside, using phrases that soothe rather than punish, and notice how kindness shifts the nervous system toward repair. Compassion does not mean passivity. It means clear-eyed acceptance combined with wise action when needed. Offer the same gentleness inward that would be offered to a loved one encountering difficulty. This compassionate witnessing creates a stable container for transformation and healing. Let tenderness become a daily practice as the witness matures and becomes more present. Carry this compassionate presence into interactions where emotions often trigger habitual reactions. You learn to transform emotional energy by channeling it into conscious movement, expression, or constructive action rather than suppression or explosion. If an emotion feels energized, consider small actions, breath, a stretch, journaling, or a mindful walk that help transmute intensity into clarity. Recognize the creative potential that often hides behind strong feelings, waiting for a wise container to be expressed. The witness allows that energy to be harnessed skillfully instead of hijacking behavior. Over time, emotional vitality becomes a source of insight and purpose, rather than distraction and regret. Trust that attending to emotion with clarity will gradually change how life responds to your presence.
You now widen attention to include external senses, noticing the world without immediate evaluation and allowing perception to be fresh and alive. Listen to sounds as tones in a broader field rather than as urgent signals demanding action. Observe colors, textures, and smells with the same impartial curiosity used internally, noticing details without labeling them as good or bad. Let the senses be a teacher, revealing what is truly present rather than what narratives insist upon. This open, receptive seeing reduces reactivity because the mind is not immediately hijacked by judgment. Practice this outward noticing as a natural extension of the inner witness cultivated earlier. Allow the environment to inform and nourish your presence rather than distract it. You now widen attention to include external senses, noticing the world without immediate evaluation and allowing perception to be fresh and alive. Listen to sounds as tones in a broader field rather than as urgent signals demanding action. Observe colors, textures, and smells with the same impartial curiosity used internally, noticing details without labeling them as good or bad. Let the senses be a teacher, revealing what is truly present rather than what narratives insist upon. This open, receptive seeing reduces reactivity because the mind is not immediately hijacked by judgment. Practice this outward noticing as a natural extension of the inner witness cultivated earlier. Allow the environment to inform and nourish your presence rather than distract it.
You can perform a soft survey of the immediate environment, naming boundaries, light sources, and objects without attaching a story to them. This sensory mapping grounds attention in external reality and prevents the mind from generating unnecessary narratives. Notice where the gaze rests and how the body responds to different stimuli, recognizing habitual patterns of attention. Use peripheral vision to expand awareness rather than narrowing into fixation, letting space around objects breathe. This broader view stabilizes the nervous system and reduces the urgency of reactive impulses. Allow the environment's qualities, temperature, light, movement to be accepted as simple facts that inform wise behavior. With this external clarity, interact with the day from a place of calm discernment. You practice receiving sensory input without taking ownership of it emotionally or mentally, recognizing signals as data to be used rather than threats to your equilibrium. For example, a loud noise can be registered as sound without immediately turning into anxiety unless chosen otherwise. This discernment reframes the relationship between stimulus and response, weakening reflexive patterns. Train the witness to ask, "Is this input worth a reaction?" before committing energy to response. Over time, many stimuli will be noticed, processed, and allowed to pass without unnecessary escalation. This habit preserves inner resources for actions that truly require attention and care. Let the practice of non-ownership cultivate a steadier inner atmosphere throughout the day. You bring the witness into movement, whether standing, walking, or stretching, allowing attention to remain steady as the body shifts through space. Notice how motion reveals new sensory information and how attention can be anchored amidst activity rather than only in stillness. Use each step or breath as a micro-practice in presence, letting the mind observe rather than narrate. Movement practice integrates the witness into daily life, demonstrating that awareness is portable and practical. If the mind wanders while moving, gently return to the sensed experience of limb, ground, and breath. This embodiment of witness ensures that presence can accompany ordinary tasks and conversations with ease. Allow movement to be a laboratory for sustained attention. You practice balancing sensitivity to the outer world with the steadiness of inner observation, ensuring neither dominates to the detriment of wise action. If the outer world feels overwhelming, narrow the focus temporarily to the breath and body to regain equilibrium. If the inner field becomes too introspective, allow external senses to ground you in shared reality. This dynamic balance enhances social intelligence and personal clarity simultaneously. With practice, alternating focus becomes seamless, and the witness can flow between inner knowing and outer responsiveness with grace. Notice how this balance improves relationships, productivity, and inner peace across daily situations. Carry this harmonized awareness forward as daily life summons attention in myriad directions. You develop techniques to quiet distracting environmental noise using breath, micro-pauses, and focused peripheral attention when necessary. Rather than fleeing stimulation, practice shrinking its emotional impact by reframing it as neutral input and returning to your anchoring practices. Notice how small rituals, putting on gentle music, closing a window, or briefly stepping outside can recalibrate the field without requiring long retreats. These practical tools support continuous presence and reduce the friction of everyday life. Remember that quieting is often a matter of shifting relationship to input rather than removing it entirely. Allow this renewed capacity for steady attention to influence how engagement with the world unfolds. You now translate quiet witnessing into intentional choice, allowing observations to inform purposeful action rather than passive watching. Let the witness reveal habitual impulses and offer alternatives aligned with values and long-term well-being. When clarity arises, name a simple, realistic intention for the next hour or next interaction, treating it like a soft compass. This intention is not a rigid command, but a guiding light that helps shape responses. Use the calm field cultivated by the witness to carry intention into action without urgency or anxiety. Notice the subtle difference between decisions made from grounded presence and those made from automatic reactivity. Allow intention to be a gentle steering mechanism for daily life. You implement micro-actions that translate inner clarity into visible shifts in behavior. A mindful reply instead of a quick retort, a short walk instead of ruminative thinking, or a clear boundary gently communicated. These small choices compound and rewire habitual patterns by privileging conscious response over reflex. Micro-actions are accessible and sustainable, and they demonstrate immediate results that reinforce the practice. Keep the actions concrete, time-bound, and compassionate to yourself and others. Notice how these tiny steps affect mood, relationships, and productivity over the course of a day. Let the witness guide not only perception but also tangible, values-aligned movement in the world. You use the clarity of witnessing to choose boundaries that protect attention and emotional energy, communicating them with respect and firmness. Decide ahead of time what is acceptable in conversations and situations, and allow the witness to remind you when limits are being tested. Boundaries are not punishments, but acts of self-care that enable consistent presence and better contributions to others. Practice stating boundaries succinctly, without excessive justification, and observe how doing so creates fresher dynamics in relationships. Boundaries negotiated from calm witness tend to be received more clearly and followed with less conflict. Notice the relief and steadiness that consistent boundary setting generates in daily life. Let boundary practice be a practical expression of inner sovereignty. You strengthen decision-making by pausing to ask whether a choice aligns with your highest values before responding, using the witness as a referee between impulse and intention. Simple questions. Is this helpful, or does this reflect who I want to be? Bring the mind into alignment with the heart's priorities. Allow the body to contribute feedback. Often somatic signals reveal deeper truth than hurried thought. If confusion persists, return briefly to breath and sense to allow clarity to emerge instead of forcing a conclusion. Notice how many small decisions become easier and more consistent when informed by this reflective pause. Over time, clarity in decision-making reshapes the quality of your day and deepens trust in your own guidance. Carry this discernment into both minor and significant choices alike. You consider how daily intentions relate to a broader sense of purpose, asking whether actions contribute to meaningful direction rather than momentary reward. Let the witness illuminate when choices serve long-term flourishing versus short-term comfort, and choose accordingly when feasible. This alignment is not about perfection, but about consistent reorientation toward what matters most. Use morning practice to plot small, actionable steps that connect immediate tasks to larger aspirations. Notice that purpose becomes less abstract and more lived through tiny, intentional acts informed by presence. With steady practice, daily life becomes a coherent expression of inner values. Allow purpose to infuse ordinary moments with quiet significance. You design simple reminders, breath cues, a phrase, or a tactile object to reinstate the witness when the day pulls attention outward and habits re-emerge.
These anchors support the translation of morning practice into continuous lived skill, helping choices remain aligned rather than reactive. Periodically touch base with the body and breath to renew clarity and reset intention as circumstances shift. Notice how small reinforcements prevent drift and keep responses skillful across the day. Integration is gradual. It accrues through repeated recommitment and gentle correction, not through rare moments of heroic discipline. Allow flexibility and compassion to accompany persistence, so the practice becomes sustainable and joyful. Let the witness guide each action as the day unfolds. You now focus on making witnessing habitual, so the observer becomes a natural presence rather than a novelty reserved for quiet moments. Choose realistic, repeatable anchors, like the first breath upon waking, a bathroom mirror glance, or the first sip of water to cue the witness without adding friction to the morning. Small, consistent acts are the path to durable change, and they translate intention into living pattern. Track progress gently, celebrating regular returns to presence rather than punishing inevitable lapses. Recognize that habit formation unfolds across days, weeks, and months. Patience and routine are your allies. Let this practical structure bring the grace of presence into ordinary life seamlessly. Over time, the witness will operate more and more automatically in service of wise living.
You can use subtle reminders, phone alarms with soft tones, a bracelet, or sticky notes to call the witness back when distraction grows heavy. Choose reminders that are gentle and non-judgmental, functioning as friendly nudges rather than punitive alarms. Each reminder is an opportunity to reconnect with breath, body, and intention for a minute or two, restoring clarity and calm. Over time, the nervous system learns to anticipate these resets and becomes more resilient to stresses. Use reminders strategically during known triggers or high-demand periods to preserve composure. These micro-interruptions compound into powerful stabilizers that ensure practice survives the busy flow of life. Allow reminders to be an act of kindness toward future moments of distraction. You craft brief rituals for common daily transitions, leaving the house, starting work, or beginning a conversation to bridge inner clarity and outer action with intention. These transitions are natural checkpoints where reactivity can easily slip in, and rituals offer a pause for conscious choice. Keep rituals short and repeatable. A breath sequence, a grounding touch on the heart, or a single clarifying sentence. Over time, these small acts change the tone of a day and reduce the likelihood of habit-driven reactivity. Rituals become signposts of presence that others may feel and respect, improving relational dynamics as well. Practice these transitions with curiosity and kindness, ensuring they remain accessible and meaningful. Let ritualized awareness unify inner clarity with outward living. You apply the witness in interactions by noticing internal reactions before responding verbally or behaviorally, giving yourself space to choose skillful engagement. Observe how observing your own feelings diminishes their intensity and enhances listening capacity. Use the witness to detect when triggers are internal rather than caused exclusively by others, allowing clearer, more generous responses. Practicing this in relationships transforms conflict into conversation and reactivity into connection. Invite curiosity about the other person's perspective while staying anchored in your own inner field. The witness fosters empathy without surrendering boundaries, creating healthier, more resilient relational patterns. Carry this relational skill into moments of tension and tenderness alike. You develop gentle feedback loops that inform practice, such as brief journaling at day's end or a quick reflection on moments when the witness was present or absent.
Note small wins and moments of learning without creating a harsh ledger of success and failure. Use these reflections to adjust anchors, rituals, or intentions in service of better integration. Over time, feedback creates adaptive intelligence, helping the witness become more effective and personalized. Share observations with trusted companions when appropriate to amplify insight and accountability. Allow iterative refinement to be steady, compassionate, and experimental, honoring the uniqueness of your unfolding path. With consistent feedback, the witness matures into a practical tool for ongoing transformation.
You sustain momentum by combining small daily practices with occasional extended sessions of reflection or silence to deepen capacity and perspective. Short morning practices keep the witness active in daily life, while periodic longer retreats or dedicated time amplify integration and insight. Balance novelty and routine to prevent stagnation. Try different anchors or fresh ritual acts when stagnation is sensed. Celebrate progress without fixation, allowing sustainable growth to be the primary metric. Let curiosity and service motivate consistent practice rather than guilt or pressure. Remember that the witness grows through gentle repetition and kind accountability. This sustained approach gradually transforms reactive life patterns into a living practice of mindful engagement. You harvest the fruits of practice by acknowledging subtle shifts in attention, emotional tone, and bodily ease that have arisen during the session. Pause and feel appreciation for the willingness to return to presence again and again, honoring the quiet work that builds inner resilience. Take a moment to notice any clarity gained about intentions, relationships, or upcoming tasks. Allow gratitude to be a soft glue that consolidates small changes into felt reality. Recognize that even modest consistency generates a powerful inner economy of calm, choice, and effective action. Carry this harvested clarity into the day ahead, letting presence inform every step. Know that the witness is available whenever called upon.
You're invited to seal the practice with a brief closing ritual, such as placing a hand on the heart, bringing palms together, or offering a silent phrase of intention. This small act marks the transition from practice to the world while preserving the inner field cultivated here. Keep the ritual minimal and resonant, allowing it to become an accessible habit that signals readiness for action. Use it to anchor the witness so it is easier to recall when daily demands arise. The ritual need not be elaborate to be effective. Consistency matters more than complexity. With this simple seal, stand ready to move through the day with clearer choice and gentler presence. Let the closing be an offering to the life that awaits.
You restate a practical intention for the day in concise, positive language, such as respond from choice or allow curiosity to lead, letting it resonate briefly in the chest. This restated intention acts as a thematic thread that weaves the morning practice into daily activities and interactions. Keep it short enough to remember and strong enough to influence behavior when needed. If helpful, tie the intention to a specific context: work, family, or personal care to make it actionable. Let the intention be a soft companion, not a strict rule, and allow flexibility to adapt to changing circumstances. Carry it outward as a guiding phrase that recalls the witness when needed. Allow the day to be an unfolding laboratory for presence and kind action. You are gently invited to return to this practice each morning, understanding that transformation accumulates through repeated, compassionate attention. The witness does not appear as a sudden mastery, but emerges through patient, consistent invitation and practice. Expect resistance, boredom, and interruptions as part of the journey, and meet them with curiosity and kindness rather than judgment. Schedule small daily commitments and occasional deeper reflections to maintain momentum and deepen insight. Remember that this practice is a practical technology for living with more ease, clarity, and choice. Return often and watch how subtle shifts become stable presence in daily life. Allow this invitation to land softly and persistently in your routine.
You move forward carrying a cosmic yet practical counsel. Presence is simple, durable, and available through small repeated acts of attention and kindness. The witness is not a philosophical concept, but a practical capacity that reshapes moments into meaningful choices. Keep language gentle and curiosity alive when the mind attempts to control or fix experiences, remembering the power of non-reactivity. Honor both silence and action, allowing each to inform the other as the day unfolds. Be patient with the messy, luminous reality of growth. It is rarely linear and always layered. Let these guiding words be a quiet companion as the witness ripples into living expression. Step into the day with radiant presence and wise intention.
You are warmly encouraged to share reflections, experiences, or questions in the comments to build collective wisdom and mutual inspiration. If the practice resonated, consider bookmarking this session and returning to specific chapters or scenes that felt particularly helpful. Explore variations, shorter practices on busy days, longer sits on restful mornings, or movement-based sessions to personalize the witness for your life. Community and repetition deepen the practice, and sharing your journey can illuminate paths for others as well. Allow curiosity to guide next steps and permit gentle experimentation with what supports your continued presence. Thank the self for showing up and step forward into the day with awake compassion and choice.